For those of you watching, thank you for tuning in. We will be live in about 4 minutes with Mark Sotomayor, the founder and CEO of Treecup. We look forward to chatting with you soon. Hey guys, I see a few more of you just joined us. We have about 3 minutes until our live at 12 p.m. sharp with Mark Sotomayor. We look forward to speaking with you. Hi, everybody, and thanks for tuning in. We are about to get started with Mark Sotomayor, the founder and CEO of Treecup. We will talk to you in 1 minute. Hi, everybody, and thanks for joining me for this week's Latino Pittsburgh Digital Speaker Series. Today, we are here with Mark Sotomayor, who founded his first company, Treecup, at age 19. We'll hear more about Treecup in a minute, but they have successfully funded more than 18,000 trees to be planted in Haiti since their launch in 2017. So let's hear from Mark. Mark, thank you for joining us. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for inviting me on, Melanie.
We are so happy to have you. You are such an inspiration and such a pleasure to have as a friend. And I'm glad to have you in my life. And I can't wait to share your story. So,
Thank you.
Mark,
Likewise.
why don't you start by telling us where you're from?
Yes, I was born in Providence, Rhode Island, but both my parents are from Lima, Peru. They had immigrated just 3 years before I was born in 1994. And since then, we've moved around a lot all over the United States. I was able to see a lot of the country: Rhode Island, Arkansas, Utah, Texas, Pennsylvania, and I even lived in Peru for a little bit. I'm very grateful for my past experiences, but I like to say I'm a man of the
I
world.
love that. So, why did you move around so much? What did your parents do?
Yeah, my dad was an ambitious doctor. He was a physician over in Peru for about 10 years. And he actually has polio. He walks around using crutches because his legs are paralyzed, but really tough dude. And he decided to switch to a job where he was like sitting down all day. But instead of doing his schooling over the in Peru, he decided to move over to the United States, and he went to Brown to be a pathologist. So now all day he's looking through a microscope at different germs and really diagnosing for the other doctors what the different ailments are. And he just wanted the best life possible. So that took trying out a lot of places. The first 9 years of my life, we were moving around. But finally, he found a really good and happy workplace over in Butler Memorial Hospital here in the greater Pittsburgh area.
That is wonderful. I didn't know that about your dad. So, I bet, has that been an inspiration to you as well? That he has overcome that and keep going?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Each time I feel a little bit unmotivated, I go visit him. And yeah, he just every day he's fighting. And it's amazing. And growing up seeing that, it definitely makes me feel like a wuss if I'm not like working my butt off. Especially since I can't do any of that like science. Even I don't really like math either. But all day he's heads in the books, mind working and amazing.
So, was anyone in your family an entrepreneur?
No, my mom essentially could do all sorts of different stuff. She's kind of like a jack of all trades. And whilst we were moving around, she helped different organizations, like, Flower Club and different things at school. She was always involved in kind of a go-getter. Um, and because my father's a little bit limited with his movements, my mother was always taken point with doing some of the on-hands things for me and my sister, as well as for the household and entertaining us and taking us to different clubs and extracurriculars so that we could learn more.
So, with your family being originally from Peru, how was Latino culture embedded in your life as a child?
Yeah, my mom and dad always spoke in Spanish, which God bless them. I'm very glad they did. However, me and my sister would always respond in English. So I see this is a lot. You might find a lot of commonalities if you're a Latino growing up in the United States. Spanglish is the language spoken. And that really helped me out a lot. I can watch, Spanish movies, speak to people that speak Spanish really easily. I can understand what they say. But one of the bad things about us responding in English, I find it more difficult sometimes to retrieve the Spanish words at times in my head. But going in, I can understand it immediately. Going out, it's a different story. So kind of fascinating. But I'm really grateful, and I am hoping that I get to do some development work over in Spanish-speaking countries in the future.
So, Mark, since you grew up here, I mean, you're technically first generation, right? You were born there and moved here.
I was born in Providence, Rhode Island.
Oh, okay, okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, sorry. So, do you how do you feel about, this topic that we come up on a lot in this show about where do you fit in? How do you feel? Are you accepted to these different groups, especially like, with Spanish being in your family at a young age? I'm sure that you have way less of an accent than a little more of like a slight gringa like myself.
Yeah, I definitely speak like a gringo. Um, in terms of identity and fitting in different places, I think it's like a positive and a negative that I don't really fit in fully in most places, but I do have an appreciation for all the differences of cultures. Even in, places in my hometown, there's different microcultures. And I am always studying this sort of sociology. When I'm selling my tea at the side of the street, asking literally everyone to sample it or to buy or anything, I'm constantly in the back of my mind thinking about kind of like the psychological play, the sociological play. What are their eyes telling me? Especially now with the face mask, pretty much all you can see is the eyes. What is their body language telling me? And I've noticed that as long as you're kind and you lead with kindness and your intentions are pure, either your intentions are pure or something else that's just as good as having no intentions, because everyone's got an intention nowadays. Other than to sell my tea, that's always my intention. But yeah, I always try to lead in any culture I'm in with a smile. A smile means the same thing in any country, any language, and people can see kind of the light, so to speak, within you if you just lead with that. And these days, people, if you kind of lead with some sort of mixed sort of intention or kind of some judgment, they can pick up on it. I think this year, 2020, with the quarantining, has made us all more adept to these psychological things, maybe made us understand ourselves more, forcing us to be inside by ourselves and intake a lot of content online. But yeah, I always try to lead with happiness. That typically ends up making for good conversation. But no, I don't really fit in anywhere, but I'm grateful for that because that makes me more ambidextrous, I believe, to be able to go different places and um, kind of like have a home wherever I go just by manifesting light and goodness and all.
I definitely see that in all of my conversations with you. And I'm wondering, where does that come from? Is that something that comes from within that you were born with? Or do you think that it is also in how you were raised?
Definitely how I was raised. My mom took the point being being the stay-at-home mom. She definitely took point in showing me how to just be super happy with everyone. And I remember, actually, I have an anecdote. When I was in preschool, we had just gone back. I was like 4 years old. One of my earliest memories. We just gone back from living in Peru for like a year, and I had literally forgot how to speak English. And I wish I knew Spanish that well now. Over 15 years later. But I'm in preschool there, and I didn't speak for like a month. And my teacher would talk to me, ask me questions, and then I just wouldn't say anything. And then I asked my mom, what should I say whenever they ask me questions? And then she's like, well, just respond in Spanish. So the next day I responded in Spanish, and she looked at me all bewildered and stuff, but with a smile. And I still remember that. Um, but yeah, my upbringing was just my mom showing me how to be nice, happy, kind to all sorts of people. She has a strong accent. Her English is getting more and more better each day, ever since she's come here. But seeing her kind of being able to communicate with people in English, which is definitely different because she couldn't communicate to the full extent, really, kind of limited. And the Spanish language has like a lot of nuances and passionateness to it that can't be expressed, especially if you're trying to translate it in your mind. But seeing her kind of face that adversity, kind of instilled some sort of um, fight and resilience and appreciativeness within myself for being able to speak good English here.
I love it. From what we have discussed, your mom seems like such an inspiration, and she also comes into your business story, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But I want to know, how do you think that being Latino has affected your life in education and in business?
Yeah. In education, I remember in high school, I took Spanish, and that was easy to get, good grades there. Um, Probably the easy way out that I shouldn't have taken, but nonetheless,
You know
um,
what? We all did that. Everybody deserves a break and everybody's good at something. So when you find that thing, like, why not let it shine, right?
yeah, that's right. I was able to be like Spanish club president at my high school pretty easily. So I guess that's good. Um, in reading and understanding different things or different words that I've never heard before, I can know the word in two languages. So I can kind of understand and piece things together more, like a more global and worldly sort of knowledge within my head that's kind of always running in the subconscious. Being able to know a lot of different places. I traveled a lot. I've been to 15 countries. My dad took me to most of them for his work trips. And because of that, I can never just think of the present spot I'm in. I'm always thinking and realizing that there's always these gears moving, unseen gears and all this all around the world, making the motor of the world move forward. And yeah, that plays into my business nowadays. I can't just sell a product that um, is just so singular in its narrative and its purpose and mission, because I know what sort of situation other people are in. For example, in Haiti, I've been to the Dominican Republic, Bangkok, Thailand, Lima, Peru, where you see all these slums, and the American dollar exchange there helps them out a ton. That's what I realized.
So, in those experiences, can you tell us about one of your travels and one of the stories from your travels that has impacted you the most?
Yes, yes. So I was in the Dominican Republic after I graduated from high school, and I went there for a mission trip. And at that point, I was only going to go to, I had only applied to one college, and that was Robert Morris. And I knew I wanted to do business. Um, and Robert Morris was like the business college. Um, I was kind of interested in Carnegie Mellon being like the bomb, like the Ivy League school, not really, but of Pittsburgh, like the best, smartest, all that. But my GPA wasn't good enough. It was like a two something in high school and college. I'm not ashamed to share that. And at this mission trip, I had, by the time I came back, I was deciding what my college plans were going to be. I decided I was going to commute from Butler. So I was like an hour and 10 minutes drive each day. And I had kind of seen the Grove City College, which is a Christian school campus, several times. And during this mission trip, something like moved within me. And I kept thinking about Grove City. And I had kind of regretted that I didn't apply there. So I was literally in the United States for like 5 days in between my Dominican Republic mission trip and then going to Peru for 2.5 months to visit family. And I was going to return like 1 week before college started. During that time, I sat down with my mom, talked about the options, and I hadn't even applied to Grove City, but I knew they had an entrepreneurship program. And I thought to myself, well, studying business versus studying entrepreneurship, what is it that if I had a dream, I would really want to do? And the thought was, make my own business, not go into someone else's business and be a part of them and stuff. I really just wanted to do my own thing. And this was instilled within me from several different clubs in high school, Future Business Leaders of America to begin with, and then this program called the Entrepreneurship Academy that the Midwest Intermediate School Union, I guess, put on my senior year for like only 3 years. And I was lucky enough to be within one of those 3 years. And yeah, from there, I had decided, you know what, I'm going to apply to Grove City with the entrepreneurship major. If I get in, I'm going to go, but if I don't, so what? And this was the summer beforehand, and you're supposed to submit applications like a year beforehand. Anyway, I applied. Something told me I would get in. I go to Peru. Like a week later, I get an email that I'm in. And yeah, I went there to study, and I'm grateful I did.
I love that story. And I love how your mission trip impacted you so much and really changed things for you. But I want to visit really quickly. We talked a little bit about where your entrepreneurship journey started. And right before that, you kind of had this change in life and change in lifestyle. And I want to talk about that a little bit. One of the things that we like to touch on are things that other people can identify with and hurdles that they've overcome in their lives. And can you tell us one thing, that you had to overcome and how you did that?
Yeah. So I sold Cutco knives, starting like the last month of my senior year of high school, all throughout my freshman year of college, commuting from Grove City to Butler, selling knives, and then the summer in between my freshman year and sophomore year of college, I was the Butler County branch manager. So at 19 years old, I worked like 70 hours a week, like every day of the week. In fact, Sunday, which I had always taken typically as rest or whatever, was my biggest day at work, hitting the phones like all day with a group of receptionists, which I had to hire. And my job was to recruit, interview, train, manage sales reps, as many as I could. And I had like 40 at one point, and the turnover was quick though, so it was constantly fluctuating. And I don't think almost anyone kept the job into the fall and moving forward after that. But yeah, so that was difficult for me. I had never been forced to work like that. I had chosen it, just to test myself, to create a better future for myself and all this. And yeah, I was just every day kind of without a purpose, not doing what I wanted to do, but what another corporation wanted me to do, and way in over my head, and dressing in a nice suit each day, yet all my representatives being, mostly older than me. I was like depressed, pretty much. I've never gotten or felt that, but by the time I came home every day, I was, pretty much kicked. And so this led to me taking up a bad, something that I have now quit, a bad vice, which was smoking weed. And I know a lot of people do that these days. But that manifested into something bad, which turned into something good. And that was my sophomore year at Grove City College. Like 1 month in, I had decided I wanted to start selling tea and was kind of testing it out. And I had been like partying, driving over to a local college, which will remain unnamed, and yeah, partying and doing all that stuff. And although it's not allowed at this school, and yeah, one day I got in trouble for that. My vice had kind of like gotten out of control, and I got kicked out of college for the rest of the semester. So I had worked my butt off all of that past year, that past summer to get ahead. And here I was, because I had tried to have a crutch, of something, of a vice. Here I was with 4 months open, with the semester's money down the drain, and kind of depressed again for a bit, kicked out of college for this. And that's actually when I started my tea business, when I really got it off the ground.
Everything happens for a reason, right? I mean, not to say that people should make those wrong choices. You should always put yourself in the best place possible. But it's interesting how life works out. And I think that's one of the key differentiators between, success and, I'm not going to say failure because I don't know how much I believe in the concept of failure. But just not moving forward, right? Every situation is what you make of it. And you kind of also had that business mentality a little bit. I know we talked a little bit about in high school when you were first exposed to entrepreneurship that carried over and gave you that idea to why not start a company. Can you tell us a little bit in high school how you were first exposed to entrepreneurship and becoming a business owner?
Yeah. So my freshman year of high school, I was one of them super, lazy, uninterested in school type students. My dad was like, be a doctor, be a lawyer, or, stuff like that. And then I was like super addicted to video games. All through middle school, I would play like a ton of Minecraft, Pirates of the Caribbean, shooting games, and that was what I got my stimulus from, and that was my entertainment. And my freshman year, um, serendipitously and by the grace of God, my best friend, her name's Brooke, and my best friend now. At that point, she was like an acquaintance. Um, she went up to me one day and she was like, "Hey, I'm in this club, Future Business Leaders of America." She was 1 year older than me, a sophomore. I was a freshman. She's like, "I got to nationals last year doing this design competition. This year, I'm doing a similar design competition, but I don't have a partner. And for this specific one, I need a partner. So I pretty much have it all done and made. I can tell you're like a good speaker," which that was like news to me. And she's like, "Do you want to be my partner?" So I was like, "Yeah, I've been looking for an extracurricular to do. I haven't done anything at that point." I'm like, "Yeah, let's do it." So she took me in as her partner, and we did this competition. First, we went to states, got through states. I think we got like third or something. Went to nationals, and I was able to see and take in all these different presentations in business. And I'm like, this is what I want to do. It's intuitive. It's like common sense. Well, I feel like sociology and psychology and philosophy and all these concepts are like somewhat common sense, because I guess for a mind like mine, intuitive, observing, taking it in, and I had heard different cool stories of cool businesses being founded. Although by that point I didn't know too much about it, and I had decided this is what I want to do. I want to do business. So every year after that, I did Future Business Leaders. I learned more and more and more, up until, I was finally able to do this entrepreneurship program my senior year of high school, where each day we left high school after lunch, like halfway through. We went to Butler Community College, and this awesome teacher named Mrs. Dunn was our entrepreneurship teacher all year. And we made like prototypes, split up into teams to make mock businesses. And it was a great learning experience, which segued me into college entrepreneurship and where I am now.
So what was your business for that project?
Yeah, it was called the Portable Electronic Scaling Apparatus, PESA. And what it was is we made like a 3D model print and stuff. But in concept, it was a scale with a screen that was programmed that you could punch in. It was for a food scale. You could punch in what sort of food was in it. And then based on the weight, it would give you the exact nutritional properties. of what was on the scale. So this actually exists now, so that's kind of cool. There's like a smart Internet of Things app.
That's so neat.
Yeah, I thought so back then. It never came to full fruition, but obviously the concept was, kind of proven.
So I love sharing these kind of ups and downs in this. I think that one thing that a lot of people, they see you founder and CEO, they see your product in Whole Foods, which is amazing, which we're going to get to in a minute. And they think, life must be so easy. I think when people see success, they don't realize all of the hurdles that people have overcome. So we've been a little bit through, your video game addiction, which you overcame in college when you had a little too much fun, and you ended up being led actually into your business, which is so fascinating. What do you think has been the biggest hurdle from, where you started to where you are now?
Yeah, the biggest one, it was a year-long hurdle. And this was like less than 1 year into my business. At that point, we were called, at the very fruition, we ran with the name Te amo, which means I love you in Spanish. It's also a play on words. It also means he love in Spanish. And we had sold in bottles like this, my local dairy bottles, and we wrapped a label around it and all that. And I had gotten the business off the ground with that. We had gotten in like 10 shops local, and we were churning out the bottles sold and the trees planted. I got up to like 5,000 trees planted by the summer after I started, in between my sophomore year and junior year. That summer, I had decided not to take an internship. Every summer, I actually devoted on my own projects, which I'm grateful for now, instead of taking an internship. And halfway through, I'm selling tea like at the strip district every weekend and pitching the shops and stuff, making the website. I'm like practicing the SEO, search engine optimization, on my website. And halfway through, I get this letter from this Puerto Rican law office, and it's stamped cease and desist on it. And so I'm like, oh crap. And I opened it up, and it says there's a Guatemalan company called Te Amo that has the international trademark for the brand. So unless I want to be sued and risk losing everything, then I have to change my name before the year is done. So yeah, that was a doozy. I remember like it was yesterday, the emotions and all that. And yeah, I had to change my name. And it took like the rest of the year to figure out a good name. Finally, we came up, well, actually, someone submitted the name Treecup when I put out our new business name contest on LinkedIn. It was a patent and trademark attorney, which actually ended up doing our trademark for us pro bono.
Wow.
And yeah, an amazing dude. And then it took like a while more, like 2 months more probably, to find a designer. That whole sophomore year, I was like hustling like crazy. My whole junior year, I was like waiting, kind of frustrated, trying to learn like college and all that, but it's at a standstill. And then it took like the second semester of my junior year for the design to be finished, for me to find a manufacturer. It took all summer for the bottles to be made, and they finally came in like a year ago, September 2019. So I had a whole year of like no sales, a standstill, rebranding. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about that process. So when you started your business, how old were you?
19 years old.
So when you were 19, you had kind of been through this entrepreneurial program. You were in college. Did you understand the process that you were going to have to go through to get all of these things done to get from point A to point B?
No, I'm still figuring this stuff out as I go. I like to think of myself as a real scrappy dude, and that is a bad thing, but it's also a good thing.
I don't think it's a bad thing.
Dude, I got my degree and it's a Bachelor of Science, BS. And that's accurate because I BS my way through a lot, you know. I like entrepreneur is what I like to say. Um, but yeah, I just kind of figured it out as I go. Like I'm still figuring it out as I go. In fact, I'm still producing the same way I originally produced with different other kind of scrappy and FDA approved methods of production while I'm making it.
So we don't.
That's important. That's one thing I can't BS my way through. But when you're making something people literally digest, you got to be really careful and thoughtful. But it actually makes me more appreciative because I feel like it's such an intimate product I'm making when someone's cycling it through their body. And but I still produce it in a local commercial kitchen here in Evans City. It's called the Veterans of Foreign War Commercial Kitchen. And I pitched them like when I was suspended way back my sophomore year, getting everything set. And they, by the grace of God as well, they accepted me to brew in their kitchen. We've been doing that ever since. Even the orders we fulfill to Whole Foods now, they're produced in this scrappy little kitchen on a stovetop.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. That's so cool.
Yeah, thank you very much.
I want to talk to you about that a little bit. So, this tea didn't just come out of nowhere. I want everyone on here to hear you were talking to me about that moment when you saw the tea. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes. So I had said that I was in Peru visiting my family in between high school and college. Every morning, I would wake up like, my grandparents woke up super early, made food. My mom and my grandma would always fill the house with this aroma of cinnamon, cloves, a couple other spices like lemon verbena, and some pepper even. It would be filling the house, and I would like wake up to the smell, which was delicious, like a candle. I'd go downstairs, and for breakfast, there was, this awesome local bread, fresh made, and then a cup of tea. And that tea is this tea now, the Peruvian chai tea. Um, so I was, it was my sophomore year, 2 weeks into college, and Labor Day had happened. We had a break. I go to my mom's house. Being the awesome mother she is, she makes me all my favorite foods. There's like steak, potato salad, and the salad. And then there's a picture of my grandma's Peruvian chai tea. I literally drink this whole pitcher in one sitting. And I'm like, Mom, this tea's so good, you could sell it. She's like, you study entrepreneurship. Why don't you? And then the lightning had struck. I had just quit my knife selling job. I was listening to a lot of Gary Vaynerchuk, which is a beast, really motivates me. And he said, make your business your passion, make your business your passion. So in looking for a product, I couldn't do like tech. I'm not a coder. I can't sell online products. I can't sell things that aren't physical. And that was just kind of how I was. And so I'm like, tea, bottled tea. I had grown up drinking bottled tea. I loved it. It's like something I got every time I was at a gas station. And that's when the lightning bolt hit. And I decided to start making this tea.
So that's an amazing story, and I love that it comes from your roots and that it comes from your family. But I think we all have those moments where we're like, okay, this is a great idea. What am I going to do with this? And there is a significant difference between the people who leave that there and the people who move forward. So what would you say to the people who are having those brilliant, amazing, world-changing ideas right now that may not act on them?
Yeah, I mean, the future is uncertain, unclear. The one thing that's definitely clear and certain is if you don't do anything, nothing will happen. And although you might not have the resources, in fact, when I was like, before I started my business, I was calling all these different beverage um, creating firms. They like create people's beverage brand for them. They source everything and bring it to market for them. And they have a lot of portfolio companies that are kind of like the differentiation and the speciality of them are like, somewhat special, but nothing crazy. And I had called them and I'm like, how much will it take for me to go to market? And they said like 200,000. And I'm like, okay, what's the cheapest you think I could do it with? They're like, production runs super expensive, probably minimum 100,000. And I did all. I mean, I'm here, and I spent way less than that because of my constraints. So I guess my return has been like pretty good from a branding if you want to like value my brand or whatever. But yeah, I mean, you just figure it out as you go. There's no manual for like a specific business. There's some great resources online which you can take advantage of, but it all happens in here and you got to take action every day.
Yeah, every day is a choice to go forward or not. When you talk about those numbers, that's shocking, to make some tea and get it out there, $200,000. I mean, I know that there are all these regulations, but I think that where you took it and you said $200,000, you didn't hang up the phone and quit, right? You kept going and you found a way. So how did you find the funds to start your business, Mark?
Yeah, at the beginning, I used my Cutco funds. Luckily for me, we started in these bottles, and I could get like a sleeve of 250 ones of these with the caps for like less than $40. And my local dairy producer like did me a real solid with that. They didn't have to do that, but they did by their grace. And yeah, so luckily I could start up pretty lean. I didn't spend too much those first couple months. I was just kind of focused on scrappily selling them literally at the side of the street at different vendor shows. And by the time I was ready, I had my new brand set, the Treecup brand. I was kind of like out of funds at that point. So my mom, by her grace, gave me a loan. It was about 12,000, and I was able to get 10,000 bottles and a ton of other stuff with that. And yeah, that was the only funds we took from like an investor or anything. I still am in the process of paying that back. It was like a loan, and yeah, but I'm really grateful for that. So instead of 200K minimum, like 100K, they said I've done it so far with like 12. I think you're muted.
Oh, sorry. I said that's amazing. Where there's a will, there is a way, right? So after you got through that first initial thing where you found the funding that you needed, how did you, because we talk about how it's so amazing that you're in Whole Foods now. What is that process like, and how can other entrepreneurs start to make those moves?
That's a great question. I do love sharing this with people. So when I was in these crappy bottles, but I had my, barcode, and I had my nutrition label made and some other important specs on the bottles that you're required to have. Once I got that all set, and I figured that out by online research and also by going in to talk to the people at Whole Foods. So I just called in, when can I speak to the manager? They gave me like a nice 30-minute time slot. I go to my local Whole Foods in Wexford, and I meet with the grocery buyer, the person in charge of putting in all the orders for the products on the shelves. And I'm like, what do you think about this product? You think we can be in one day and all this, pitching my heart out for this. People buy with their eyes, right? So although this is the same liquid and same cause and everything as this, this can sell for like $4 or $5 all day easily, sell itself. Meanwhile, this won't even get touched, maybe for like $1 or whatever, people would maybe get it. But yeah, it's all
It's the same product, right? It's so funny. I think that I was talking to a friend who owns a business yesterday or the day before, and we were talking about the importance of perception and even your logo and things like that. Can you tell us a little bit about how you went through that process and how? Because when I look at your product, I see, class. It's clean. It seems like something I want to put into my body, right? So tell us a little bit about how you cultivated that perception and how people see your brand.
I was very fortunate. Um, I wasn't the designer for the bottles, but once I did get the idea to call it Treecup, I did think about the concept of the icon for the business being a teacup with a tree in it. And I had just like mocked that up really badly. And then this is something else that happened, like that was like by the intervention of something divine, because I put out a request for proposal for different designers. And at that point, I had spoken to like 1,000 designers, had to turn a lot of them down, even though they like were beginning to do some work. Um, and the reason was it just wasn't good enough. It wasn't what I thought. And, I was that whole year having to rebrand. I was like in a battle in my own head, like, should I continue? Should I not? And then I put out this request for proposal, and this dude from London with his own sustainable marketing firm reaches out to me. And on the request, I had put my budget's 1,000, and which is like super cheap for like a good brand, by the way.
Yeah, that is very low.
Yeah, and then he's like, yeah, and then so he literally made it all for $1,000, and at that point I had 9 different types of um, tea bottles that I wanted to come out with, 9 different flavors. He made it all. He put the website together, and we did some tweaking. He worked virtually over like how things are going to look, moving things around, and what the emblem here is going to be, and what it's going to say, some of the fonts and stuff. But this dude was like an angel. Okay, he like made it all for me for $1,000. So
Wow,
yeah.
that's amazing. Yeah, I I don't want to put that out there too much for all the designers out there. But that's the thing. Where there is a will, there is a way, like we said before. And I think that things just lined up in such a way for you. You were at this point in your life where things were kind of falling apart. It was difficult. And you turned that into this beautiful thing, which is something that a lot of entrepreneurs do. But I wanted to know, what do you think are the important personality characteristics that it takes to be an entrepreneur? Because when I look at you, Mark, one of the reasons I wanted to ask you this was so many people think of a CEO as, a really stuffy, maybe not the kindest, most thoughtful person. I feel like people envision something completely different from what reality is. And you are so far from that. Can you share us a little bit about how you conduct yourself as a CEO and what you think it takes?
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Well, I I like to think of myself more like as a founder. I think the CEO term, is kind of like that stuffy suit, corner office, and kind of detached from a company, nonetheless, big company sort of thing. I like to call myself the TEO because my day to day is like brewing tea and stuff. I try to
Oh,
be like,
so cute. I love
thank
it.
you, appreciate that. But yeah, I just um, the way I look at the world is definitely it is what you make of it. And I don't have resources. I'm still trudging along, like hanging on a thread, but still moving forward, which I think is a good thing. And anything that's manifested between people I know that it will first probably come to fruition because of how the personalities can connect and can relate, interact, and work together. So um, I've always tried to be kind to people, and my message that I'm spreading with my tea is a kind message, and I just lead with that. I lead with the cause. I like to say we're not selling tea, although we are. We're selling trees. Because if I convince myself of that, then I can really show people the value, which is our greatest differentiator in the market that we're in, which I think will allow us to disrupt the market, which is really wasteful, polluting, in a very eco-friendly, climate impact-oriented way. So I just try to be really kind. I mean, I don't have much other than that. So I think it's one of my greatest resources. And I love people. It's my favorite thing to talk to people.
Well, Mark, I think that we are on the 100% same page there. But I want to dive in a little bit deeper to the differentiators for your company and the story of where tree in the Treecup comes from.
Yeah. So I was in my first couple months of starting the business, and I had literally been sent. This is another serendipitous thing that happened out of the blue, which kind of convinces me that this is what I'm supposed to be doing amidst all the hardships. I was selling tea literally in my hometown, Evans City, at the Living Dead Weekend Festival, which is a huge festival commemorating how the Night of the Living Dead was filmed in the cemetery, the graveyard we have here in town. Anyway, I'm there selling my tea out of zombie cups. And I had been thinking I want to attach a social cause, but at this point I hadn't yet. And then this man named Dave comes up to me and he tastes the tea. He's like, "Oh, you're an entrepreneur, hustler. Good for you. You're young." And he told me he was the entrepreneurship professor at another local college. I'm like, "Great. I go to Grove City, entrepreneurship." And then he's like, "Where are you at with everything?" So I tell him the biggest thing I want to do right now is have a social cause. And I'm trying to get FDA approved and being bottled and all this. And I had been researching social causes like wells in Africa. Hurricane Irma was happening then, so maybe some sort of relief to them, etc. And then he was telling me another like angel that popped up in my development of my business, how he sits on the board for a tree planting organization, nonprofit, excuse me, that reforests Haiti, and it's called Haiti Friends. And he was telling me about Haitian deforestation, how they're about 80% deforested, most impoverished nation in the Western Hemisphere. And as he was saying that, I was thinking, buy a tea, plant a tree. And that was like another light bulb moment. And yeah, I got in touch with the director. I asked him how much per tree. He said 40 cents. And we've been donating 40 cents per sale ever since then.
So, Mark, for those, first of all, thank you so much for what you are doing for the earth and for humankind by doing that. Thank you so much. But for those people who aren't entrepreneurs who are watching, why did you have this desire to add a social cause? And what is the significance of that in business today?
Yeah, two reasons. I had described earlier how I was doing like unpurposeful, dispassionate work selling, a product that I was emotionally detached from. And I needed something that would give me purpose. I needed something that was going to fuel me every day. And for me, that wasn't just like with making money. It had to be something more, something new. And from studying the beverage market, it's all the same. It was all like a black tea within some plastic bottle. Now it's kind of changing a little bit. There's like kombuchas and glass packaging and stuff. But yeah, and the second reason was I knew that instead of like paying money for marketing, which for my research, I realized that, I just had a brain fart. I was reading the comments.
No,
For,
no, that's okay.
For my research, I realized that most beverage companies and consumer packaged goods brands were spending like half of their profit on marketing again. And I'm like, this sucks. And from that marketing, only a bit of it's effective. I'm like, I want something that will spur word of mouth, humans talking about this. So I don't market.
That's the
I
most effective marketing anyway, right?
Yeah, I totally agree, 100%. I also learned that from my research. I thought if it's just something amazing, then people will already talk about it. But how do we make it something amazing? So I don't pay for marketing. I don't know what this will, come about from in the future. I just like pay them 40 cents per bottle, and I get like PR, uh, like all sorts of good news, and even being on this right now is like a great form of PR. All these great things come to me because I'm trying to do good.
Mm-hmm. Well, I want to be the first one to say on here, because you haven't told us how delicious it is, but I want to tell you guys, it is so good. Actually, the first time that I met Mark, I got to try the different flavors, and I highly recommend it. You can pick it up at Whole Foods. Mark, can you order online?
Yeah, we're on treecuptea.com.
Mm-hmm. So make sure you guys check it out. We do have some questions, but I do want to talk to you for another 2 minutes, really about that mission and the importance of corporate social responsibility and connecting with the community for other people. We know that large corporations, they have the money, the time, etc. But for people who are looking to start businesses, how important is it to consider these things when you're first starting? And I know you touched a little bit on the marketing, but how else does that help going forward?
Yeah, it's super important. The consumers, they're becoming more woke, and they realize, especially if you're like a consumer facing brand, some of the biggest pollutants aren't consumer facing, like chemical companies and stuff like that. So they can like hide, and they're not facing any consumers which will, be repulsed by their actions. But if you are a consumer facing company, then you have to adapt to this eco-friendly nature. In 2017, when I started like eco-friendly, I was thinking it could go either way, but now it's become super clear to me that eco-friendly is the way, and it will continue to be the way. If you look at any of the popular social media things, whether it's on TikTok, Instagram, or Facebook, the things being shared and the emotional response for consumers, like really digging deep and looking at the reasons and purposes for companies, are huge. It's one of the reasons that I think, although a lot of people buy Coca-Cola, they will increasingly get more and more backlash because of the crazy amounts of waste they make. So if you want to ensure your future, I would definitely think about partnering, or just having more transparent business operations. Show your ethics if you're ethical. If you're not, if you're not being transparent, then that means you have something to hide nowadays to the consumer.
Yeah, and more important than ever, I don't have the numbers with me, but I know that there is a percentage of consumers which is extremely large, and it's growing exponentially, for those who will actually choose to pay more for a brand that agrees with the things they believe in socially, which now, with all of the turmoil in the world, is just magnifying every day. So, I mean, aside from the fact that it's just the right thing to do, it really is good for your brand. It's good for your bank account, right?
Yeah, I'd say so. The sales come in because of what you do. Yeah, I think it's definitely the wave of the future. We're creating the future as we speak, you know.
So this has been such an amazing talk. There were so many things. I think that your story is so inspirational, where you come from, the things that you've overcome, how you've started your business. Before we get into the other questions, we have 3 questions from the audience, but I want to know, what is next for Treecup and for Mark Sotomayor?
Thank you. We have about a week left in our Kickstarter campaign. And yeah, I'm gonna be finishing that up. I have new bottles coming in the 17th of this month. The rest of these new glass ones, and I'm gonna be brewing my butt off like the several next days after that. And then we're relaunching into Whole Foods. Or if you checked our website and the products, we'll have our new glass bottles up on that. And I'm launching an ancient healing tea line this winter, like holistic medicine as a tea. Instead of taking like pharmaceuticals and all this stuff, I'm gonna have pre-made, curated blends, which will either boost your mood or boost your immune system. Like literally with the intention of healing stuff like the flu, for instance. So that's what's immediately next for me. And I'm getting 22,000 of these in, and that was super pricey. I gotta flip them as soon as possible. So yeah.
That's amazing. Well, congratulations on all those new things. We do have a lot of really great comments from the audience. Just some people saying how awesome you are, and I could not agree more. But I want to get to the questions. You mentioned Coca-Cola, which is perfect for our first question. We have this question from Brandon Brooks. He's the founder of Inventrify, which is a crowdfunding platform. And he said, would you ever sell to a larger company like Coca-Cola, for example?
Yes, although it definitely depends on terms. We work with a nonprofit, which we're like tight with now, like really tight. And the work they're doing, I've committed personally to continue supporting them, even if this business, which I'm gonna double down on this business for the future, but say it doesn't go or whatever, I'm still gonna continue supporting this organization. They're kind of like near and dear to my heart now. I visited them several times in Haiti, and so I would sell to a larger company because our goal is to reforest Haiti. Haiti will take like over 100 million trees to be reforested. And after that, there's a ton more to do. Coca-Cola, for instance, sells like way over that, like a ton of bottles each day. And I don't even have the capacity for any of this stuff. So the more capacity with the right terms, still donating that amount, I think would be perfect. However, Coca-Cola, they shut down their new business investing area of their business. They shut down like new business development on outside brands. They're keeping everything internal, as well as, knowing they create all that plastic. They haven't tried to change. So I don't know, but they can change, and they do have the most power, and like their distribution is monopolized. There's no other word for it. They only distribute their own product, and it's one of the strongest beverage distribution networks. So I would, but it would have to be with the contingent on still reforesting Haiti at minimum. So yeah, that's where I stand with that.
That is great, Mark. I love that at the end of the day, even the dollar amount doesn't change, your mission. That's really important. Our next question is from Richard. He is the founder and CEO of Affinitive, and they elevate people through investment, knowledge, and community. Thank you for your question, Richard. He said, what do you see yourself doing in 10 years?
I have a ton of different interests. Growing up, I'm pretty sure I have and had like hyper ADHD, attention, whatever. Right now, I'm writing a book. I'm starting to anyway. It's about a kid named Jorge that takes a gap year and sees all these crazy things in the world, like things from like, drug deals, taking drugs, to witchcraft and, manipulation and all these things. So, and like my writing just comes so naturally to me. I would like to be like a career writer now. I do want to maintain in business as well. May very well be that 10 years from now, I'll still be in Treecup. I don't think I want to give up anytime soon. And I think as time goes further, we're just becoming more and more ripe and developed for the business climate that'll exist. So I don't expect Treecup to like in 3 years or even 5 years to be national, but in 10 years, then yeah, I think I could definitely do something like that. Either way, I'm going to be an entrepreneur and I'm going to be an author. That's for sure.
That is great, Mark. I love that you know what you want and you go for it and you are confident that you will achieve that. Having that vision and making it happen is so important. It's one of the things that I love about you.
Thank you.
So our last question is from Christine. She is actually the head of our student relations committee. She is a student at Pitt going for her master's degree in international development. Thank you, Christine. It's how has your work been impacted by the pandemic? Have you felt supported as a minority business owner?
I actually, the Whole Foods deal was selling more and more and more when the pandemic started. And I just graduated college, studying entrepreneurship. And when we went online in March, that actually gave me more time to spend on the business, which was a nice transition into, working by myself, for myself all summer up until now and for the future as well. So it's actually helped so much so that we ran out of bottles like mid-July. And so yeah, well, that's a good thing, yeah, but
Awesome.
now we're actually like it's a totally different, way. It doesn't go as well as like something as beautiful as this, but it's gone well. It kind of shows that my business has like roots and a base to stand on, demand that we can't even support, which is good and bad. And then the second thing, have you felt supported as a minority business owner? Yeah. I mentioned how I don't fit in anywhere, but at the same time, I'm like a chameleon. I can fit in different places, so I can wear different hats and stuff. So yeah, like even in Butler County, being a rural sort of culture, I'm still accepted and loved. And in fact, people in my own hometown love that there's something new and upcoming within it. So yeah, I felt supported. In fact, I just last month I got a grant. So from the state. So God bless. That'll help me out a lot with
That's awesome.
Thank you.
And so when it came to like the COVID funds, did you use the PPP or any of I know you got the state grant, but any of the others?
Yeah, I couldn't do that. I didn't have like a payroll. I was only paying myself a little bit. So in applying for that, you had to show like the 1099s for the people you've been paying. And I didn't have a history of any of that, so I couldn't apply for that.
It happens. I think there are so many things that people who aren't in business don't realize about in that, but I'm glad that you got what you needed, that you're on the right track. And I want to really thank you for being here with us today. Your story is a fascinating and inspiring one. And anyone who has any other questions for Mark, you can put them in the comments. He will be checking the comments later and get back to you. You guys can connect with him on LinkedIn. I put that, down there in the comments. Also, I put up your website. If anybody has any questions, I'm here, Mark's here, and make sure that you try Treecup tea. It is delicious, and you are never going to go back to whatever inferior drink that you're drinking now. And the fact that Mark makes it, so every time you take a sip of that tea, think of Mark brewing the tea with all of his own ingredients, with his love from his heart, from his grandma's recipe. Mark, we are selling you some tea today.
Thank you. God bless you guys. Peace and love. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mark. So for everyone else, thank you guys for tuning in. I'm so happy. There are a lot of people I know who tune in week after week. The Latino Pittsburgh Digital Speaker Series is an initiative of the Pittsburgh Metropolitan Area Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Our goals are to share relevant information, inspire growth, and foster opportunity. Speakers include community leaders and members, as well as other individuals who have a positive impact on not only the Hispanic community, but the Pittsburgh region at large. If you want to become a speaker, you can email me at melaniemarie@pmahcc.org, or you can visit our website for more information. But next week, I hope that you guys come back. We'll be back on Tuesday the 13th with Claudia de Leon. She's the CEO of La Mega Media. So if you guys don't know what that is, there's only one print item in Pittsburgh that is in Spanish, and that's La Mega Nota. And they also have those in several other cities, as well as radio stations. Their social media is always bumping. So we want to hear from Claudia, where she comes from, where she's going, and of course, the hurdles that she's overcome. So I hope to see you guys next week, and bless you all. You can learn more at www.pmahcc.org. Have a great day.